Hello and welcome to my very first online Bible Club video. I have been wondering how to make these things, how long to make them, what to use, and I've decided it's better to get started and do them badly and then I can improve rather than spend years wondering how I'm going to make them and end up not making them. So I'm going to start now. I'm going to try and keep them to 20 minutes. I'm just using my camera in my laptop and PowerPoint. Nothing special, nothing weird. We've been running a Bible club, a Bible reading club in the church for a while, and we've got through a lot of books. We started with the Gospel of Mark, and so where to start online? I thought, well, there's four Gospels. The Gospel of Matthew is the Gospel described as the Gospel for the Jews. Luke is the Gospel for the outsider. John is slightly different from the three synoptic Gospels, and Mark is the Gospel for the young and impatient. That's where I always start, being young and impatient. So we're going to start this online Bible study with John's Gospel. Very apt, I think, as I'm John. All right. So please like and subscribe, and we'll get started shortly, right now. Okay, I'm going to keep them to 20 minutes, so it's going to be a rush. Isaiah 40:21. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? Revelations 22:13. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Isaiah 46:10. I make known the end from the beginning. From ancient times, what is still to come, I say, my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. So we've decided where to start. We're starting with the Gospel of John, and I'm going to read it to you. And I could let John Shusay read it, but I'm going to read it. I'm just going to read the first 5 verses, and then we'll have a look at the meaning of the very first word of the entire Bible. So the word being in beginning. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.
Really cool about Hebrew and how it works. Here's your first Hebrew word, Aleph Beit. Notice it's the first 2 letters of their alphabet, the Aleph Beit. Okay? Every Hebrew letter has a picture associated with it. So an Aleph, its picture is the head of an ox. You can see the snout, you can see ears, you can see horns. It's the head of an ox, and it represents strength and power. A beit, its picture is a tent. And the letter beit is also the word beit, and it means house. Tent, house. By the way, our letter A comes from Aleph, and our letter B comes from beit. God is always first, always, on everything. So, if Aleph is strength and beit is house, tent, you have Aleph Beit, the strength of the tent. The strength of the tent is the Father, the Abba. Abba. You can pronounce it phonetically, and you can figure out its meaning. That's unbelievable that every word in Hebrew does this. So what you need to learn is you learn your 22 letters and then learn their pictures and what is associated with them, and you're figuring out Hebrew words. Here's one more. Beit. Well, we already know beit. It's a house. It's a tent. By the way, you've heard the word beit before. Even if you spoke no Hebrew, you know beit. This is in Beit Lechem. Lechem is bread. Beit is house. Beit Lechem is house of bread. Jesus says, I am the bread of life. And he's born in Beit Lechem, the house of bread. How funny. And here we have Resh. A Resh, its picture is a head. If you turn a Resh around and read it this way, it would be our letter R. So now here you have Beit Resh. You sound it out, bar. And what is it? It's the head of the tent. Well, who's the head of the tent? Well, in God's thinking, it's the Son. And isn't that how it worked? Didn't God give authority to the Son? He gave all authority to Jesus. That's unbelievably cool. So, the head of the tent is the Son. The strength of the tent is the Abba. Bar, by the way, you've heard the word bar mitzvah. When you are bar mitzvah, you are son of the law, mitzvah. You have to follow all of those 613 laws that God gave Moses on Mount Sinai. So, now that you know how Hebrew works, let's look at this first word of Genesis 1:1, Bereshit. I've written it big here, but it's the same here. It means in beginning. Okay? Well, each one of these has a picture associated with it. By the way, notice that each of these also have a number associated with it. God deals on levels, and levels, and levels, and they all intertwine and connect, and there's sub-themes and themes, and they all interconnect, and everything points to Jesus. Don't believe me? Watch. Bereshit, the first word. Remember, we're reading from right to left. You can sound it out. Beit, ba, resh, r, aleph. They actually say it's a silent letter, and you don't... It sort of gives the A sound. I don't know why they call it a silent letter. It does. It is interesting that Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, yet God does not begin the alphabet or begin the Bible with an Aleph. He begins it with a Beit in Bereshit. Interesting. So, and even the shape of Bereshit, notice it's closed to heaven above, it's closed to earth below, and it's closed to infinity past, but it's open to the future in the direction that God reads. Pretty cool, huh? Anyway, so this is Bereshit, and R is Ra, Resh, Aleph, Ah. The Sheen, it's a Sh sound. Yud, Ya, and the Ta is the T sound. So you sound it out. Bereshit. And if we look at their ancient pictures, remember, you learn 22 letters, you learn 22 pictures, and you can figure it out. A Beit, we already said, was a tent. And a Resh, this was the head. Uh-oh. Oh, not bad. And Beit Resh, we already know this much. That's a word we've already learned. It's bar. Bar is son. Oh my goodness. He starts the Bible. Bar. I told you, everything points to Jesus. He's the first two letters are pointing to the Son. Then you have Aleph. What's Aleph? Aleph, we're going to put it in blue because blue would be the color of God. Because this is God's letter. It's the one he's out in front. He doesn't take everything. He gives all authority and everything to the Son. He starts the Bible with the Son. So this is God. He's the head. It's the strength. God's letter, Aleph. So what do we have in the first three letters of Bereshit? The first word of the Bible, Bereshit, which means in beginning. It's not in the beginning, by the way. There's no the in here. When we learn more of Hebrew, you'll see it's not there. It's just in beginning. And believe me, I know so little Hebrew, but I'm learning, and whatever I figure out, I'm going to pass on to you. Okay, so the first three letters, it's Bar, Son of God. Oh my goodness, that's pretty cool. We come to the Sheen. It has an ancient picture also associated with it. Its picture is, I'm doing it in black, teeth. It looks like a W. In fact, Sheen, it's the Hebrew letter that looks more like a W. But it's actually teeth. You see devouring teeth? And anytime you see a Sheen, it represents destruction and devouring. Okay? Teeth, destroying. Interesting. Okay? In fact, look at this. If you just take these two letters right here, Aleph, Sheen, that is a word in Hebrew on its own. That word is Aleph, strength, strong, powerful. Sheen, destruction, teeth, ultimate destruction. It's Aish, fire. In fact, Aish, whenever Moses was up on Mount Sinai, and who does he the burning bush? It's the Aish Sinai. The Aish is fire. Sinai is bush. The Aish Sinai, the fire in the bush. And it's just a cool picture of God. He's the fire. He's the judge. He can destroy. He's the fire. But the bush isn't consumed because he's also merciful. Unbelievably cool picture. But here he's got his Aish. He uses this name on Mount Sinai. But you can see how Hebrew works. You get these. You can figure out what the words are, and they sort of define what they are. A Yud, the Yud, its picture is a hand, and we'll do the hand here. They actually draw it sort of like this. It's an arm. Okay, you can see an arm coming down and coming out in the hand, and it represents work or a hand doing something. Yud. It's the smallest Hebrew letter. When Jesus, in the New Testament, he talked about not one jot or tittle will pass from the law before all are fulfilled. He didn't say jot. He said yod. He's saying not even the smallest letter in the Hebrew alphabet will pass from the law. So that's the yod. Very cool. It's the 10th, number 10. He begins his names with yod, which is very God. That's a God thing. His name Yahweh begins with a yod, or Yeshua begins with a yod. His city Jerusalem begins with the yud. He's almighty, unbelievable, almighty God, and he uses the smallest letter for his name because he can. And then we come to the Ta, and the Ta, its picture it's the letter T. Ta, hear it? So you T. Or it's a cross, which you put your mark, your Ta. That's what it is. So the word Bereshit, if you sound it out, you have Bar, the Son, Aleph, of God, is destroyed by his own hand, willingly, on the cross. and you atheists say there's no God, and that man wrote the Bible? He does this with every word, people. Every word. Anyway, that's just really cool. And
I read out the beginning of John's Gospel, but I'm going to let Isaiah be read by John Suchet.
Isaiah chapter 9. Nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who were in distress. In the past, he humbled the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. But in the future he will honor Galilee of the nations, by the way of the sea beyond the Jordan. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. You have enlarged the nation and increased their joy. They rejoice before you as people rejoice at the harvest, as warriors rejoice when dividing the plunder. For as in the day of Midian's feet, you have shattered the yoke that burdens them, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor. Every warrior's boot used in battle, and every garment rolled in blood, will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this.
Right. So John's Gospel is slightly different to the Synoptic Gospels. It doesn't follow the same chronology. It's slightly different. Things that happen don't happen in the same order as the Synoptic Gospels. So Mary at Simon's house, slightly different timeline. Anyway, read John 30:31. This is a collection of evidence that you should believe. So John also wrote Revelation, and John also wrote 3 epistles, numbered 1 to 3. There's a lot of interesting stuff about John. We're just in John's Gospel's prologue, so we have a long way to go yet.